Hold on. You have a choice. You can have the boat or the mystery box.
What, are you crazy? We'll take the boat.
No, not so fast, Lois. A boat's a boat, but the mystery box could be anything. It could even be a boat. You know how much we've wanted one of those.
Then let's just...
We'll take the box.
Hey, it's me, Uito Me, the guys with the 5 eyes that you see. And it's another day and another slew of layoffs from a company filled with people who
couldn't help but buy it.
I know that ain't who I think it is.
same old to most, but still a really big issue to me. As you know, last month, Bungie let go of a staggering 220 workers in July, which come after the 100 that had their core cut back last November. And I don't know if it's me, but I can't help but feel like there's a big fire brewing underneath the floorboards of the gaming industry at large. Cause see, Bungie firing around 25% of itself is a high enough number as is, but at this point it's become close to like a standard amongst other studios around the world, and I can't help but wonder how that will further affect the quality of games we're going to have in the future. We can't possibly expect these companies to reproduce great gritty video games with drastically less professionals. You know, getting rid of so many people means that for future games there will be even more of a workload in whatever sectors suffer the most losses. And as you can imagine, that means more crunch and a lack of morale that'll probably precipitate, I don't know which word to use,
Nigga, you stupid.
in the offices as well. And yeah, a bunch of other hypotheticals, but the main thing is Bungie are working like complete assholes. In this particular case, it's not just about laying people off to make up for overhiring during the pandemic or not meeting growth quotas. It's much greasier than that, because of what I'm reading about this situation, it signifies a clear lack of fiscal honesty and corporate mischief permeating in this company and others in the industry as well. So I've got a few articles here that I've gathered from my hypothesis that the members of the board, or whatever the hell it is, of this company, they have sold themselves out so they can run off on the plug on Sony. Now let's begin with this article for Harvey Randall. Title is Bungie reportedly going to pull trigger on layoffs regardless of the final shape success due to leadership under delivering on financial promises to Sony.
Yes, he said the opposite. It's funny.
Yeah, I get it.
And this title is coming from The Happening that, quote, Bungie's leaders had overstated their studio's financial prospects to Sony, and Wednesday's cuts were needed to stop continued. So these losses were already happening, continued losses that amounted to an ongoing reality check, as told by the reporter Stefan Totilo. So actually, it's kind of funny just to bring this out, but most of the articles I have, basically the main report came from Stefan Totilo, and most of the people reporting after him are kind of quoting him. So I kind of just realized that while making this, but you know, follow along. This is a red flag because these guys oversold themselves to Sony really big. And see, now this is the thing about business, right? You do always oversell yourself, even if you're not really worth it for the company, because the name in the game is money with businesses. That's the game they like to play, so match that energy if you can. But the key thing here, although, is that Bungie knew they were in a jam and they were losing money. Them even making a realistic promise that would result in profits will be a lie as well. And they know it won't happen regardless of what happens, you know. That's kind of the difference. It's one thing to oversell yourself and be bad at the job. It's another thing to oversell yourself and you don't know what you're doing, you know, or you've never done this before.
That's why I'm glad I hired you.
Right,
you said you had how many years of experience again?
Oh, I got about 5 years
of
experience doing
experience.
maintenance.
The last guy, he didn't even know how to fix up a hole in drywall. I don't know which one it... Okay, hopefully it's this one. Oh, hell. God!
You know, when you oversell, it's basically to overhype what you already are.
You ain't shit.
What Bungie were doing was, it's like the equivalent of false advertisement. You know, it's one thing to say, we're going to sell 100,000 copies soon. It's another thing to say, even if we sold 100,000 copies, we still won't make a profit. That's essentially what they got going on here, okay? The final shape is the DLC of Destiny 2, and it's supposed to be basically free money for these guys, right? It's got rave reviews. The fans love it. They love it. It's a great product, you know? But as it turns out, Bungie is so down in the dumps that some of the employees are alleging that even if the expansion did well, Bungie knew it was not enough to prevent layoffs. So Sony spent about 3.6, and remember 369s. Always watch out for those words when we have these big things happen in the industry, because they practice witchcraft and occultism, but that's a thing for another day. $1 billion to obtain the studio. So an expansion that won't make sufficient income no matter how well it does was not what they were asking for at all. And this should really damage the reputation of the company and the individuals running it. And actually, depending on how bad the overselling was, Sony could possibly have a legal case on his hands, because they bought Bungie because they were assured by them that what they have on the table was cooked al dente, but a future as bright as gold. But lying to them is, you know, also basically lying to all the people work there too, in a way too, because the promise of success of Sony should mean security for the people supplying that. But it's simply not true, and we know Bungie would continue to move on like they didn't just push these people into the pool of unemployment. The best thing they really did was like reassign about 155-ish people throughout Sony. But again, they were withholding this information from Sony, you know, and this would have affected the price that Sony would have paid for them. So that's why I think like maybe there could be something legal here, because something is missing, you know, like clearly something was not done, a communication issue. They're holding back on their part. They're lying. There's no way I can think this is legal. That's just me. Catherine Lewis's Games Radar article sums out how Sony is feeling about it with this. Quote, Sony Group's president, chief financial officer, and chief operating officer Hiroki Totoki was also the chairman of Bungie owner Sony Interactive Entertainment. He says,
for this restructuring, purpose is cost, structure, and portfolio optimization. Those are the purposes. And simultaneously, we have to enhance the efficiency of the business.
You're fired.
There was not a hint of any soul or compassion in that ChatGPT Grammarly edited response. So they're probably thinking we'll fire 200 more as long as it saves on costs, because they've already got a dumpster fire now. Do whatever you can to fan it out. Not to mention, many of these employees also found out about this round of layoffs strictly on social media. So many of them had no idea what was going to happen. And I hate that, because that seems like that's a common thing we see all the time. People get laid off and they kind of just say it on social media and people find out later. I just hate how these companies don't have integrity to just tell them straight up beforehand and give them time to look for other jobs, because we live in a society where if you have a business, you're competing. You know, which is crazy. So if you're competing, that means you're basically trying to do whatever you can to make sure other businesses go out of business before you. So they don't let these people know they're about to be fired, because they don't want them having too much time to go look for other jobs and be unfocused on whatever game they got working on, even though they don't be finishing the game anyway. Bro, it's madness, bro. Straight madness. If you didn't notice by now, Bungie is clearly being led by the mages of the Covenant, with their boastful nature cloaking their lies. But we're not done yet. It was seen that the CEO, Pete Parsons, pardon the Parsons, has been indulging himself in the blood, sweat, and overtime hours of his developers, buying a couple $1 million worth of cars, about 2.5, 20 classics to be exact. And not only was he copping the whips, but one of the interns might have told him it ain't tricking if you got it, because he also may have been showing them off to other employees, judging by what this possible insider is saying. Also note that she apparently got to see the cars before they dropped the top on her 2 days later. And I believe her, honestly, because only a red-blooded asshole could drop close to $2.5 million on a bunch of cars you know he won't be driving. It's not a coincidence. The thing that makes this so worrisome is there are also 3 questions that come from this. What the hell else is he buying?
On them hoes, cocaine.
Why, yes, I am, player. I'm blowing through his money so fast, you wouldn't believe it. Yesterday, I bought a car that turns into a boat.
Who else was splurging with him? And just how much money did these guys get out of that deal? And I'm using my intuition, but The team at the top of Bungie clearly sold the studio off because they know it's the end of the road. They know they're done after Destiny 2 and they're cashing out and getting whatever they can. It's the classic leave you holding the bag kind of move. And because after getting paid, it's basically Sony's responsibility for this franchise, and for them, they don't have to care what happens. They could get fired, critiqued, resign. Who cares really? They made their money on a sinking ship. You'd think Logan Paul was running this bitch. If we really think about it, I think one of the articles, they said they have another sci-fi-ish game in the works in the future, but if the company is being run by people like Pete Parsons and they're laying everybody off, you really can't expect too much from the game now, because now we're not going to have all hands on deck like we did for Halo. We're not going to have all hands on deck like we did for Destiny. It's not going to have that same feeling. The workers are not going to look at the company. You might end up having everybody working just to work instead of working for the passion of it, and you might end up getting a game that's not worth anything. It's actually a very precarious situation because Bungie, Halo, they did a great job with Halo. They've done a great job with Destiny, but with everything going on, who knows what this is going to be. And I think when these guys sold off the company, I think they understood that themselves, that they might be cooked. Now, see, I feel like Bungie is not going to come out of these layoffs unscathed because the leadership has been inconsiderate of everyone else's feelings and expectations and just cooked their own turkey dinner and threw everything else in the trash. Lying to Sony about your future, knowing you'll be laying everyone off, take the money, buy yourself some bullshit, then lay everyone off with varying levels of alert, wait a few months, then do it again. That's horrible. Sony dropped $3.6 billion on these guys, and they knew their company was already burning that money to the point that if Sony didn't buy Bungie, then possibly, according to Kat Bailey's article sourcing Stefan, they were going to be insolvent. That also makes you question again, where was this money going? Because Destiny is one of the few franchises that has made it with games as a service model, off of creating nothing but classics as well with the Halo franchise. Like, I don't think they made a bad Halo. In 343, they don't know how not to make one. And I know this is what Sony was thinking, and that's why they took the risk on their studio, because they basically got a AAA developer and everything they made was AAA. Can't get better than that. Withholding such information can't be legal. I mean, I don't think it's legal. I don't know if it is, but I know something about it is not legal in that aspect. And there is no way the price of the brick will stay the same for the better or even at all. This is literally Smokey dealing with Big Worm, except the gun is at Smokey's head, and that's too many backstabbing. I know there has got to be a lawsuit in there.
Hey, what you say, nigga?
I already said that. Too much lying is selfishness, not for there to have been some instances of people in power taking things too far, but I feel like that's become somewhat of a culture now on the corporate side of the game industry. So I'm sure you noticed it by now, but mass waves of layoffs have been happening in quite a few industries with their own drama. Since the pandemic, I think many companies have been showing us that is more money working than brains. Seeing as so many companies did layoffs because they overhired and overpaid. But the way a lot of companies are handling it in this industry, it's like these people are just taking out the trash late. So many of the CEOs, COOs, hoes,
Lazy hoe?
have been parachuting money into their pockets through the success of so many products, but find a way to cut out their employees when the bonus money starts to come around, just for themselves. One person is sometimes the whole bankroll of the sectors of the company with this kind of greed. Like, I know it was Pete's money and he can spend it how he wants, but how could you possibly work for a man who's blowing cash off a deal that his workers won't benefit from because he knows he's getting rid of them, and then he just showed them off? That's textbook sociopath behavior. It makes you question his mental states in regards to how he sees his staff. That kind of cognitive dissonance cannot make him a healthy boss to work for. He'll stun on you and he'll fire you. It ain't tricking if you got it.
You without me equals shit. You understand that, you ugly fat bitch? Now let me borrow your car.
Even the devil couldn't trust that kind of person. He'd probably bury one of those people if he knew he wouldn't get caught. And again, think about the future of the games, how this is going to affect them. I mean, looking at Destiny itself, now that a fourth of the studio is gone, it's probably going to take more energy from fewer people. The performance of the game is going to be affected. Servers will probably be stressed more often. Content updates may slow down, development for new material may not be as robust. You know, with all these firings from major studios, I think we'll start seeing a low output of games from developers in the future. But if we circle back to how sociopathic these leaders at these studios have been acting, I am sure as well we won't be seeing better games worked on longer as a result, and we'll still see a bunch of sludge trotted out because of corporate interest. For example, the maker of the Castillo Protocol has voiced his displeasure in having his game hurried out before being finished. And you know, Arcane Austin had to actually finish Redfall while being shut down. How many potential classics are we missing out on because the corporate structure is compromising the art and care of the product, the one we actually asked for? The industry is in a state of madness right now. The devs don't want to pay most of their employees and look forward to getting rid of them, even if they get sent $1 billion from Satan. The workers of these companies are there generally to turn a dream into a living, but they get overworked instead and are expected to have professional morale. While it's clear as day doing a good to even perfect job doesn't mean you won't get let go tomorrow, and we, the consumers, are supposed to be ignorant of all that and constantly accept the biggest game releases to be buggy, unimaginative, unnecessarily political, non-innovating, sometimes gambling simulators, sometimes advertisement oppressive pieces of mind control at $70 a pop. Maybe I said a whole bunch of nothing, but I'm genuinely sad people have to work for companies like Bungie. That's why I hate about hyper-capitalism. It's so illogical, but so widely applied in so many aspects of life that we hold dear. Because in that religion, it is, profit is worth more than life, even yours. And every person that generates profit but does not direct it is a cog in the machine that will inevitably wear out and be replaced over and over and over again. Happily too. Such is life though. To be fair, these layoffs are logically have to happen. The money train isn't there. If a company is over leveraged, it's over leveraged. Cutting employees off is frankly the quickest way to spend less money and cut losses as liquid as possible. Yet I feel once a company has to eliminate most of what makes it what it is, the company would no longer be what people want or expect it to be, and that's it. Bungie as we know it is dead, including probably half of everything under Microsoft Studio, and we have to move on. In fact, we've got to move on from a lot of things. We've had to move on from Game Informer. We may possibly be moving on from consoles in general soon enough. We've moved on from E3, moved on from Halo, and I know we definitely have moved on from demos and stores.
I really miss my nigga. I really miss my nigga.
Shout out to Nintendo for keeping that shit alive though. Sometimes I literally walk into Target for no other reason but to play Switch demos. And they be uploading it too. They be having some good demos on the Switch there. So, and you can be playing them with multiple people and everything too. Bro, it's crazy. You gotta keep playing demos at the Target and stuff like that.
Isn't that wonderful?
Well, I guess.
But I know for me, I moved on from the AAA market as a whole. There's still some games I look forward to, like Assassin's Creed Shadows and stuff. But as a whole, I'm not finna get caught up, you know. I'm picky with my games I choose, and I choose well because I don't let the market control me. And between indie games and emulators, it's too much content to consume to honestly get caught up in how bad Concord and Valorant is going to be. I kind of feel nostalgia for the gaming scene of the early 2000s because it seemed like the culture centered around the spirit of creating interactive media, and that's around now, but in a more liquid digital form on the internet from small studios and communities and colonies. It's clear the AAA industry just wants to serve digital slop, so if that's the case, I'm not going to eat. I'd rather focus on new games coming from people who can afford to spend the time working on an experience. And as bad as I feel for the people who have lost their job, they are the casualties of war, a great American war on consumers. Kind of at the end of my win here, but I'll finish off this essay explaining what war is going on. There is a spiritual war going on wherein the corporate government complex is trying to do as little work as possible for citizens while extracting as much wealth out of their labor as possible. That is why, even though we've suffered from an inflation spike for like the past half decade, corporate profits in the stock market is sitting pretty because they control the prices of the product. So even if people's wages don't keep up with prices and they can afford less, at least for now, the companies they buy from can still make profit, selling them degraded profit for more money. This is a method used by the industry to essentially ghost ride the whip of the market and remain placid with their services and products and basically not worry about their bottom line. That only changes when we as people as a whole realize that we are the boss and control the money. If we want to have a future where gaming companies are more solvent and we don't go through these hyper growth cycles, then we must reserve our money from the studios that perpetuate madness until they die or they have no choice but to give us the games that we really want. In the meantime, we support studios that do, which will proliferate, I hope I said it right, into a culture that rewards more and more developers for finished products and memorable experiences. That's why even if there are too many indie games to count out there, there are so many consumers that if you make a great game, it will be discovered and it will get its just due soon. Just check out Fear and Hunger. I can't wait to make an essay about that game. Came out in 2018. Most of us didn't know that game in 2018. Even when the second one came out, I'm pretty sure YouTube had caught on by that point, like 2022. But I feel like right now, 2024 is when me and the rest of the normies and casuals are starting to be like, what is this game really now? And it's blowing up. And when that game releases, because they gotta make a third one, they probably gotta make a fourth one too. Who knows how many they can make, but they definitely gotta make a third one. And the way they develop the lore in that game and the characters, there's so many branches and viewpoints and things they can go after. I really hope it becomes big enough to get on consoles. It needs to be on consoles soon. Whenever that third game comes, it's gonna blow the hell up because it's a great game. Developed by people who care, people who are going to take the time to put these things together. I've kind of come to realize that the consumerist world values media comfort and spectacle constantly versus unconformity and boundary pushing. Because of that, sometimes I think I can literally feel the art and the heart of the world in general waning year after year. But that's something we've got to control ourselves. So anyways, I'm glad you made it to the end of the video. Let's all pray for those people out there in the name of Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai B'Hashem. And don't be scared by me saying those words, because if you believe in quote unquote Jesus, Yeshua, you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about, then you know you believe in what I'm saying too. Let's pray for those people. Let's pray for you guys. And economy's getting kind of greasy out there, so maximize your money making the best you can and save as much as you can. Buy the games that make you feel. And trust me, you can tell when a game makes you feel by looking at it and seeing some gameplay. Buy the ones that make you feel. Ignore all this freaking looter shooter games as a service, freaking Overwatch, Overworld, bing, bing, blah, 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 overstimulating colors everywhere. Blah, blah, blah. Look at me, I'm a gamer girl. Video games and stuff. Stay away from that shit, please. Stop giving them money, because then they'll actually make the games we want. I'll see you guys later.